Orbital Gardens, this is Mission Control. We are confirming acquisition of your signal. You are live in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to Gardeners of the Galaxy, the podcast for all of the sentient beings in the universe who have a passion for plants. I am Emma the Space Gardener and I will be your host as we explore gardening on Earth and beyond. In last month's episode, we heard from a non-human mission specialist, Google's NotebookLM, which I had loaded with published information about China's Xijian-19 mission. I was exploring whether NotebookLM makes a useful tool for researching scientific topics, and was playing with its ability to create a podcast on the topic it had been given. I initially gave it quite a positive review, but on reflection and another listen, I do have some concerns. The audio overview was very pro-China, which isn't surprising given the nature of the materials it was working from. They were all published accounts, press releases essentially, from sources aligned with the Chinese government. NotebookLM lacked any information to offer a more critical review. Later on, though, I realised that NotebookLM had made a fairly major omission in its audio overview. It made no mention of the Turkish seeds that flew on Xijian-19, even though that information is included in the materials I uploaded. Indeed, it was the reason I got interested in the Xijian-19 mission in the first place. I had a minor complaint about it adding in imaginary ad breaks so that the discussion stops and restarts in a different direction. In a written article you'd have subheadings, but in a podcast it felt weird. But then I realised that it was man-bot-splaining. That is, the male AI voice was doing most of the serious talking, with the female AI voice asking more questions, recapping, and adding the wows. That's quite a serious complaint when we look at the larger picture of encouraging more women to work in STEM, and I wondered whether the voices would switch roles in future audio overviews, or whether this was always true. So I decided to give it another test. This time I picked a commercial American mission that was a historic first for astrobotany. In August 2024, astrobotanist Dr. Robert Ferl from the University of Florida flew on Blue Origin's NS-26 mission, conducting a plant experiment during his suborbital flight. Once again, the materials I uploaded were very positive pieces, mostly press releases from Blue Origin and the University of Florida, with accompanying news stories and features, so the tone of the audio overview was likely to be positive. I do wonder what it would do with materials on something tragic, but I don't really want to listen to that. This time there's more background material included, referencing Ferl's previous space plants research. What follows is NotebookLM's audio overview on Robert Ferl's historic flight.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We are going to blast off on this one.
Oh, yeah.
We are diving into some really cool space science.
Right.
You've sent us a whole bunch of articles and news releases
Yes.
about a University of Florida scientist, a very special plant experiment, and a Blue Origin launch. And we're going to unpack all of that for you today.
I love it.
So this is going to be exciting.
Yeah, this particular mission is so fascinating. It's really pushing the boundaries of what's possible with commercial spaceflight now.
Exactly. And we're talking about Dr. Rob Ferl, professor at the University of Florida, who also leads their Astrea Space Institute.
Right.
He has been studying how life adapts to extreme environments, like, space for his entire career.
And this isn't his first space rodeo either.
No.
Dr. Ferl has already sent experiments to the International Space Station.
Wow.
He's even grown plants in lunar soil.
That's right. He is a total space agriculture rock star.
He is.
For this latest mission. He's joined forces with his co-investigator, Dr. Annalisa Paul, back on Earth.
Right.
Okay, so let's set the scene. August 29th, 2024.
Okay.
Dr. Ferl is strapped in and ready to launch on the Blue Origin New Shepard rocket.
Wow.
This was the 26th flight for New Shepard and its 8th human spaceflight.
What makes this mission so unique is that Dr. Ferl isn't just sending an experiment up with someone else at the controls.
Right.
He's on board conducting the research himself.
I bet that was an incredible experience.
I can't even imagine.
So the New Shepard blasts off from West Texas,
Okay.
soars past the Kármán line, that's the official edge of space, and reaches an altitude of over 340,000 feet.
While the other passengers,
Yes.
Nicolina Elric,
Yes.
Eugene Grin, Dr. Ayman Jahangir,
Okay.
Ephraim Rabin, and Carson Kitchen, who actually became the youngest woman to cross the Kármán line on this flight.
Amazing.
We're probably just taking in the view.
Yeah.
Dr. Ferl had work to do.
Right. He was there to unlock the secrets of a tiny but mighty plant.
Okay.
Arabidopsis thaliana, also known as thailcress.
I know it sounds a little weedy.
I know.
But it's actually a superstar in the plant science world.
Oh, yeah.
Arabidopsis thaliana has a relatively simple genome,
Okay.
which makes it so much easier for scientists to study its genes.
Right.
And what's especially interesting is it's been used in so many space experiments that we already have this great baseline
Oh, wow.
for its gene expression on the ISS.
That's amazing.
So this experiment allows us to compare that data to what happens during a suborbital flight.
That's a great point. So what exactly was Dr. Ferl trying to find out with this space-bound experiment?
He was tackling a really fundamental question. How do plants sense and respond to changes in gravity? Specifically, he's looking at how plant genes change their expression as they transition from Earth gravity to microgravity and back again.
Okay, so which genes get flipped on or off
Yeah.
when a plant takes a trip to space?
Exactly. And even more importantly, when does that happen?
Okay.
You see, most space experiments can only look at gene expression before launch and after landing.
Right.
But Dr. Ferl is using the unique nature of this suborbital flight up and back in a relatively short time to study these changes in real time.
Real time. So he's not just seeing the before and after, he's actually capturing what happens during the flight itself.
You got it.
Wow.
He's using these specially designed containers called Kennedy Space Center Fixation Tubes,
Okay.
or KFTs for short.
KFTs, got it.
They let him essentially freeze the plants at specific points during the flight by activating a preservative.
So it's like taking snapshots of the plant's genes as it experiences each stage of the spaceflight.
Perfect analogy.
I like that.
He activated those KFTs at 4 key moments before launch as the rocket entered microgravity, as it left microgravity.
Okay.
And finally, after landing back on Earth.
Wow.
And meanwhile, back at the lab, Dr. Paul was running a simultaneous ground control experiment activating identical KFTs at the same time.
Oh, that's so important for comparing the space plants to their Earthbound counterparts.
Right.
But how do they actually decode what's happening at the genetic level?
That's where the analysis of the plant's transcriptome comes in.
Okay.
It's the complete set of RNA molecules in a cell. Basically, the messengers carrying instructions from the DNA.
Right.
By analyzing the transcriptome, Dr. Ferl can see which genes are active or talking.
Got it.
And which are silent at each of those key moments.
And this level of detail is crucial because what Dr. Ferl found in his earlier research was truly groundbreaking.
It was.
Here's where it gets really interesting, right?
Yeah, tell me more.
I'm excited.
Plants seem to know when they're on a rocket.
What?
They actually show changes in gene expression.
Huh.
Very early in the flight, long before they even reach microgravity.
Wait, so it's not just the change in gravity they're responding to? It's like they can sense the launch itself.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
And that's what makes this research so fascinating.
So what could they be sensing? Is it the rumble of the engines?
It could be. Some scientists think they're picking up on the vibrations.
Okay.
Or the rapid changes in air pressure during launch.
Or maybe even the acceleration itself. I mean, that force pushing you back in your seat. Surely a plant would feel that too.
That's one of the theories.
Wow.
Dr. Ferl actually found a similar response in his 2021 experiment on Virgin Galactic's Spaceship Two, which experienced a very different launch profile.
Oh, wow.
This suggests that whatever the plants are sensing, it's common to multiple launch vehicles and not just a quirk of the New Shepard.
That's really intriguing. It really challenges our understanding of how plants perceive the world.
It does. Plants might be far more attuned to their environment than we give them credit for.
This is blowing my mind. I'm already hooked, and we're just getting started.
I know, me too.
This is great.
This is going to be good. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of plants in space.
Yeah, I'm still reeling from that revelation.
I know, it's amazing, right?
It really makes you wonder what other secrets these spacefaring plants might hold.
So that's exactly what Dr. Ferl is trying to uncover.
Yeah.
Remember, he's analyzing the transcriptome, the complete set of RNA molecules, to see which genes are active at different points during the flight.
Right.
This isn't just about understanding how plants react to space travel.
Yeah.
This is about uncovering fundamental principles of plant biology.
Okay, so help me connect the dots here.
Sure.
How does studying plants in space tell us more about how they work here on Earth?
Well, think about it.
Okay.
Plants evolved under Earth's gravity, a constant 1g force.
Right.
That's just the reality they've always known.
Right.
But by sending them into microgravity,
Yeah.
we can essentially remove that variable from the equation and see what happens.
That makes sense. So it's like a controlled experiment where gravity is the factor being tested.
Exactly.
I like it.
We can start to tease apart which aspects of their growth and development are hardwired and which are influenced by gravity.
Got it.
For example, in his earlier experiments on the ISS,
Okay.
Dr. Ferl found that certain genes involved in cell wall development were much more active in microgravity.
So the absence of gravity triggers specific genetic responses.
It does.
Wow, that's fascinating.
It is. And the insights we gain from these space-based studies could have profound implications for agriculture.
Right here on Earth, I can see that if we can understand how gravity influences plant growth at the genetic level, we might be able to engineer crops that are more resilient to stress, more efficient at using resources, maybe even more nutritious.
Exactly.
That would be amazing.
This research could pave the way for developing crops that can thrive in challenging environments.
Yeah.
Like drought-prone regions or areas with poor soil quality.
It's amazing to think that studying plants in space could hold the key to food security here on Earth.
It's a perfect example of how scientific exploration, even beyond our planet, can lead to tangible benefits for humanity.
You know, all this talk about gene expression and transcriptomes, it can get a little complicated.
Yeah.
Can you break down this concept of gene expression in a way that even someone who isn't a scientist can grasp?
Absolutely. It's actually quite straightforward.
Okay.
Every cell in a plant contains DNA,
Right.
the genetic blueprint for that organism.
I'm with you.
But not all the genes in that DNA are active at the same time.
Right. It would be chaos if every gene was firing off instructions all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So gene expression is the process of turning specific genes on or off.
Okay.
That's flipping a switch.
Got it.
When a gene is turned on, its instructions are used to create proteins, which are the workhorses of the cell.
Okay, I'm following so far.
Good.
So in Dr. Ferl's experiment, he's looking at which genes are getting switched on or off when the plant experiences microgravity.
That's exactly right. And remember those KFTs?
Yeah.
He used to preserve the plants at different stages of the flight.
Right.
Those allow him to look at those snapshots of gene expression.
Yeah.
Which genes were active during launch, which became active in microgravity, and so on.
And by comparing that to the ground control experiment,
Exactly.
he can figure out which changes are specifically due to the spaceflight environment.
That's the key.
Yeah.
And it's not just about which genes are active.
Right.
It's also about the level of activity.
Okay.
Some genes might be slightly turned up, others might be cranked up to 11.
So it's like a volume knob. Some genes are whispering and others are shouting.
Precisely. And that nuance is crucial for understanding the plant's response to space travel.
I'm starting to get a real appreciation for the complexity of this research and for Dr. Ferl's ingenuity in designing this experiment.
He's a true pioneer in the field of space plant biology.
Wow.
And what's really remarkable is that he was the first NASA-funded researcher to conduct his own experiment on a commercial suborbital flight.
Talk about being in the right place at the right time.
I know, right?
And speaking of being in the right place, I mean, Dr. Ferl is actually in space conducting this experiment.
Right.
I bet that personal experience added a whole other dimension to the research.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
In one of the articles you sent, Dr. Ferl talked about the importance of being there in the moment.
Yeah.
Experiencing the launch, the microgravity, everything firsthand.
Wow.
He emphasized the data alone isn't enough.
Right.
You need that human element, that intuition and adaptability that comes from being immersed in the environment.
So it's not just a scientific experiment, it's also a human exploration story.
Exactly. And that brings us to another really important point.
Okay.
The role of the commercial space industry in making all of this possible.
Right. Without companies like Blue Origin pushing the boundaries of space travel, this research wouldn't be happening.
It's a real game changer for science.
Yeah.
For decades, access to space was incredibly limited and expensive. But now with companies like Blue Origin and SpaceX regularly launching payloads and people into orbit, the possibilities for research are exploding.
It's like a whole new era of space exploration is dawning.
It is.
And scientists are leading the charge.
And it's not just about doing more research. It's about doing it differently.
Right.
Think about it. Dr. Ferl was able to design his experiment, get it on a rocket, and fly with it himself.
Yeah.
All within a relatively short time frame.
Wow.
In the past, That kind of research would have taken years to plan and execute.
It's like science on fast forward.
Exactly. And that speed and flexibility
Yeah.
are opening up a whole new world of possibilities for scientific discovery.
It's an exciting time to be witnessing this transformation in how we approach space research.
I know it is.
But before we get too carried away with the future of space science, I want to bring it back to the present and to the incredible insights that Dr. Ferl's research is already revealing.
That's a great point. We've talked a lot about the how of this experiment, the methods, the technology, the analysis.
Right.
But let's shift our focus to the why.
Okay.
The big questions this research is tackling and the implications of those answers.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What are some of those big burning questions that are driving this research?
One of the fundamental questions is,
okay,
how far does this plant awareness go? We know they can sense the launch.
Right.
But what other subtle environmental cues might they be picking up on that we haven't even considered?
That's a fascinating question. Maybe they're more attuned to electromagnetic fields or subtle changes in air composition or even vibrations we can't perceive.
Exactly. And this goes beyond just curiosity.
Right.
If we can understand how plants sense and respond to their environment at such a fine-grained level, we might be able to unlock incredible potential.
Wow.
For engineering crops that are more resilient and adaptable.
That's a great point. We're talking about crops that can not only survive but thrive in the face of climate change, resource scarcity, and all sorts of environmental challenges.
Precisely.
That's amazing.
And it's not just about food production.
Right.
Understanding plant responses to these subtle cues could have applications in fields like bioremediation, using plants to clean up pollution, or even in developing new sensors inspired by plant biology.
And that's thinking outside the box, or outside the planet, I should say.
Right. It's a reminder that the solutions to our biggest challenges might lie in the most unexpected places.
Yeah.
Even in the delicate biology of a tiny plant sent into the vastness of space.
Welcome back to the deep dive for the final leg of our journey exploring plants in space.
We've covered a lot of ground, literally.
Yeah, we really have.
From the intricacies of Dr. Ferl's experiment to the implications for agriculture.
Right.
And even the role of the commercial space industry in all of this.
Yeah, it's been an incredible journey.
It really has.
And speaking of journeys, you mentioned earlier that this mission with Dr. Ferl marks a new era in space research.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that a bit more?
Absolutely. For decades, access to space was pretty much limited to government agencies like NASA.
Right.
And that meant scientists faced long wait times, bureaucratic hurdles, and limited opportunities to get their experiments off the ground, pun intended.
It sounds a bit like trying to navigate a very complex and exclusive maze.
It was.
Just to get your research into orbit.
That's a great way to put it.
I try.
But now with companies like Blue Origin and SpaceX launching payloads and people into space on a regular basis, things are changing dramatically.
Wow.
Scientists have more options, more flexibility, and a faster path to get their research into space.
So it's like the space research highway has gotten a major upgrade, more lanes, higher speed limits, less traffic.
Exactly. And Dr. Ferl's mission, where he conducted his own experiment on a Blue Origin rocket, is a perfect example of this new paradigm. He wasn't beholden to the traditional timelines and constraints of government-led space programs.
It's really inspiring to see how the commercial space industry is democratizing access to space.
I agree.
And opening up a whole new world of possibilities for scientific discovery.
It is. It's amazing.
So beyond plant biology, what are some other areas of research that could benefit from this increased access to space?
Well, the possibilities are practically limitless.
Wow.
We could see advancements in astronomy.
Okay.
With new telescopes deployed in space, offering clearer views of the cosmos.
That's amazing.
Material science could flourish in microgravity.
Right.
Leading to the development of novel materials with unique properties.
Wow.
And of course, we can't forget about the ongoing research into human physiology in space, which is crucial for understanding the long-term effects of space travel on the human body.
It's incredible to think about the ripple effects that this increased access to space could have on so many different fields of science. It truly feels like we're entering a golden age of space exploration and discovery.
I share your enthusiasm.
I love it.
And what's even more exciting is that these advancements aren't just happening in isolation.
Right.
They're interconnected.
Yeah.
The knowledge gained from studying plants in space can inform research into human physiology and vice versa.
It's a beautiful illustration of how different scientific disciplines can complement and enrich each other.
It is.
And ultimately, all of these advancements, from understanding plant behavior to developing new materials, have the potential to benefit humanity here on Earth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that scientific exploration, even when it ventures beyond our planet, is ultimately about improving life for all of us.
That's a powerful message.
It is.
But before we wrap up this incredible deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to make sure we leave our listeners with some key takeaways.
Of course. So first we explored Dr. Ferl's groundbreaking experiment,
Yeah.
which revealed that plants can sense changes in gravity, even subtle ones,
Right.
and adjust their gene expression accordingly.
We learned that studying plants in space offers a unique opportunity to understand fundamental principles of plant biology,
Yes.
which could have profound implications for agriculture and food security here on Earth.
And we discussed how the rise of commercial spaceflight is democratizing access to space,
Yes.
opening up new avenues for scientific research and accelerating the pace of discovery.
It's been an incredible journey. But, for me, the most awe-inspiring takeaway is the realization that plants are far more complex and sensitive than we often give them credit for.
That's a great point.
They really are.
And it begs the question, what other hidden senses might they possess? What other secrets are waiting to be unlocked within the intricate world of plant biology?
Those are questions to ponder as we continue to explore the wonders of the universe, both near and far.
Yes.
And who knows, maybe one day some of our listeners will be the ones conducting groundbreaking research in space, uncovering new insights into the interconnectedness of life on Earth and beyond.
That would be incredible. Until then, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of plants in space. It's been a blast.
Until next time.
I thought that was a reasonable overview of the material and quite pleasant to listen to, but a bit long-winded and repetitive and a bit short on narrative structure. I was dismayed by effectively writing Dr. Annalisa Paul, Dr. Ferl's longtime collaborator, out of the picture, although 5 of the 11 sources I uploaded mention her. And when it does mention her, it's confused. It says that Dr. Paul conducted the ground control experiment for the NS-26 flight in the lab, but that was actually done by lab manager Jordan Callahan at the payload processing facility on the ground at Blue Origin's Launch Site 1 in West Texas. I counted, and 13 of the 14 wows in the overview were from the female AI voice, so it was still man-bot-splaining, and that's obviously a feature of the audio overview. Unfortunately, that's not currently customizable. Once again, I asked our non-human mission specialist to choose a fantasy space plant. This time its material only included one species, so it had to pick Arabidopsis and then come up with reasons to justify its choice. It cited the plant's rich history in space biology research, which provides a valuable foundation for further research on long-duration missions. It added that Arabidopsis is a small and fast-growing plant, making it perfectly suited for limited space and experiments requiring multiple generations. It concluded that beyond its scientific merits, Arabidopsis thaliana carries a symbolic weight. Taking this plant on a long-duration mission signifies, it said, a continuation of the groundbreaking research already conducted and a commitment to unlocking the secrets of plant life beyond Earth. All in all, I think NotebookLM does a reasonable job of being a research assistant on a given topic. It gives you a database that the AI can search within, meaning it can pull out details for you if you know what questions to ask and are reasonably familiar with the material. But it can make mistakes and it can make omissions, so you can't rely on it to do your work for you. So, what do you think now that NotebookLM has been our mission specialist for 2 episodes? Do we upgrade it to Copilot? Or demote it to washing out the test tubes? You can email me your thoughts at earth@spacebotany.uk or come and find me on LinkedIn or Blue Sky. Ryan and I have been working to give Gardeners of the Galaxy its own website, and you can find the show notes on the new site, which is spacebotany.uk. Stop by and leave a comment to say hello. That's it for this episode, so I'll hand you back to Mission Control. Capcom, to prove that you're human, tell us one of your terrible jokes.
Orbital Gardens, this is Mission Control, confirming termination of your signal. I have a message from the higher-ups. They say they would love to authorise your herb experiment, but we just don't have the time.